margin over Barbara Buono. And if you don't think Chris Christie is thinking about 2016, listen to this.
I did not seek a second term to do small things.
Oh, no.
I sought a second term to finish the job. Now watch me do it.
Yeah, watch me do it. And he already said last night also in his concession speech, in Washington, around the country, Republicans ought to look at me, and see how to get things done. Yeah. By the way, so we had bad news for the Tea Party in Virginia, bad news for the Tea Party in New Jersey, because Chris Christie certainly ain't no Tea Party Republican, and bad news for the Tea Party in Alabama, where there was a special election, congressional election, Republican primary. The Tea Partiers put up their candidate, Dean Young, and finally, the Republican establishment and the business community around the country said, come on, we got to stop this Tea Party stuff or we're just going to keep losing. They got behind a candidate, Bradley Byrne, and whoever wins the Republican primary is going to be the congressman down there.
Yeah, come on, we're talking about Alabama here.
And Bradley Byrne beat the Tea Party at 52.5% to 47.5%. Significant victory there. So all in all, bad night for the Tea Party. 866-55-PRESS. Will Republicans get the message that they got to abandon the Tea Party or else? 866-55-77-377. One other bit of big news in New York City. Bill de Blasio, great guy, frequent guest on this show. Bill de Blasio, the most progressive, the most liberal candidate anywhere, who is just the opposite of Michael Bloomberg, not to serve the Upper East Side of New York, but to serve all the rest of Manhattan and all the other boroughs of New York City, I should say. He crushed John Lota 49 points. 49 points over his Republican opponent. So that's going to be great news for New York City. Very exciting. All in all, a big night, a lot of great results and meaningful results, I think, to talk about. 866-55-PRESS. Let's get into it right here on The Bill Press Show.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV, this is The Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine,
Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek, Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American. As a human being.
for the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday.
It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 25 minutes after the hour now. Indeed, talking about election results from yesterday. By the way, you didn't mention Colorado. Colorado did great. Our good friends out there at Colorado's Progressive Talk on AM 760. The voters of Colorado, overwhelmingly statewide, approved a tax on pot, recreational marijuana. Last election, they approved the recreational use of marijuana. Now they've said, yeah, we're going to treat it just like cigarettes and booze and tax it. Also, several local tax measures taxing marijuana passed as well. And for that, there were 11 counties that were voting on whether or not to secede from the state, break up and create the 51st state, as if they could get away with it. We'd send in the Marines if they tried that. At any rate, at least 6 out of 11 counties voted no. So North Colorado ain't going to happen. Okay, just wanted you to know that. And then back to Virginia a little bit before we get to your calls at 866-55-PRESS about all of the above returns, particularly bad night for the Tea Party. What really hurt to Cuccinelli in Virginia was the women's vote, the gap for the women's vote. And, of course, Cuccinelli is one of the worst, right, on those issues. I mean, he basically would treat women like chattel. Take away all of their rights. The margin was at least 14 points among women voters in Terry McAuliffe's favor, which again is a problem for the Tea Party nationwide. And I think a lot in Virginia is said by who campaigned for whom. Okay, we know Terry McAuliffe had Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Debbie Wasserman Schultz campaigning for him. Ken Cuccinelli had Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Ron Paul, Scott Walker, Mike Huckabee, and Rick Santorum. Losers all. Let's go back to 1952. I like Ike. We like Ike from Charleston, South Carolina. Hey, Ike, what do you say?
Hey, buddy. Yeah, speaking of the women's vote there in Virginia, that's the kind of thigh gap I really like. You know what I mean?
God. But watch it careful, Ike. Yes.
Yeah. But listen, ho, 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 Merry Christmas, man. I love it. It's like Christmas morning to me. And on top of that, the workers are starting to stand up for themselves a little bit, voted themselves a raise up there. And, you know, this is sending a message right down the line on every issue, whether it's legalizing pot or whether it's getting rid of these teabag nut balls, is the idea that, you know what, we're sick and tired of the flamethrowers, we're sick and tired of the bomb throwers, we want people to get things done. And, by the way, the future's coming, whether it's acceptance of gay marriage or legalizing pot, the next generation's coming with a full head of steam, and we ain't going to put up with it. You might as well just give it up and get out of the way.
You sum it up well, Ike, as always. Yeah, absolutely. No, there's a lot of good stuff to read in the tea leaves this morning, and I think it's, I got to tell you, that's a powerful message, man. That's like a 2 before between the eyes. And if these dumbass Republicans don't see it, then they deserve to lose more.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making Home Affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers. right now.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Here we go, 34 minutes after the hour here on Wednesday, November 6th, morning after the election, taking a look at the returns in Virginia, in New Jersey, in Colorado, in Alabama. Also have a new mayor up in Boston, out in Detroit, and in Seattle. Lots to talk about this morning. Your calls welcome about any of these races, what they mean to you. Also, those measures out in Colorado. I love this attempt on the part of 11 counties to secede from the union. Even in those counties, not all the voters wanted to do it. They recognized that would be a futile move and basically un-American, right? Didn't we fight a war over some states attempting to do that? At any rate, at least 6 out of 11 of those counties in Colorado said, no way, we're going to stay as part of Colorado. I want to come back to Virginia for just a minute because Terry McAuliffe, who will be the new governor of Virginia, no doubt about it, with the help of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and Joe Biden, he gets a bad rap from a lot of Democrats. And I know Terry McAuliffe very well. He is a friend of mine. I've worked with him when I was Democratic State Chair of California. He was the finance chair of the Democratic National Committee. When I was at CNN and at MSNBC, he was the chair of the Democratic National Committee. I've been to many events with him, worked with him both in California and here in Washington, D.C. And I got to tell you, I think he is great, and he's going to do great things as governor of Virginia. I mean, let me tell you about him. First of all, he has the biggest heart of anybody I know. He's a great guy. He is very gregarious, very warm, fun to be around, loves people, very generous with his time and his money, very loyal to his friends, and has helped countless candidates through the years by raising money. Now, some people say, oh, Terry McAuliffe is just a fundraiser. Yeah, he's probably the best and the most successful fundraiser that ever came down the pike. But, it's in fact, the legendary story of Terry, and I have seen the photograph. I think the photograph actually might have been in Life magazine or Time magazine, where one time he was trying to get a donation out of somebody in Florida. I forget the exact details, but he asked the guy for maybe $1,000, and the guy said, give you $1,000, right? I'll give you $10,000 if you wrestle an alligator. And Terry said, all right, I'll do it. And he actually got in a pit and wrestled an alligator to get a big contribution out of this guy. So that's the extent he will go. But, to me, it's always sort of hypocritical for some people, politicians particularly, to criticize the people that raise the money for them when they depend on the people to raise the money for them to get into office. And yeah, I want to get money out of politics as much as anybody else. But as long as politicians need to raise it, they need people like Terry McAuliffe who know how to do it. And the other thing about Terry is he's no wild-ass liberal. He's the kind of practical, middle-of-the-road Democrat. He's a Bill Clinton Democrat. And he loves to make deals. He loves to get things done. So I think you're going to, I'm telling you, you will see in Terry McAuliffe a Democrat who is willing and, in fact, takes the initiative to reach across the aisle and get things done with the legislature in Virginia and move that state forward. So I expect good. I'm telling you, we can all expect good things out of Terry McAuliffe.
And the fact, I think it's just fascinating how far Virginia has come.
Yeah, right. No, it has. I mean, now look at it. I mean, you can say right now, Virginia is a blue state. Virginia is a blue state, maybe with a tinge of purple, right? But Barack Obama carried it twice. They got 2 Democratic senators and Democratic governor, Democratic lieutenant governor, and possibly a Democratic attorney general. Republican state house, but statewide, no doubt about it. And a lot of that is because Northern Virginia, there's so many federal employees who work in Northern Virginia, number one. And number two, because the Tea Party is just out of sync with average Americans and middle-class Americans across the country, except in the deepest red of the red states. Otherwise, that's a message, a negative message, an obstructionist message a defeatist message that just doesn't sell. One other thing that we wanted to mention this morning is President Obama yesterday. They're still getting a lot of flack at the White House, of course, over the Affordable Care Act and the president's statements when he said over and over again that if you have you could almost hear him say it, right? Under the Affordable Care Act, if you have health insurance and you like it and you want to keep it, you can keep it, no problem. The night before last, of course, the president put a little different twist on that. Do we still have that cut, Peter? When he added a little conditional statement to that, saying, well, you can keep it if, as long as. Here he is talking to the OFA.
Now, if you have or had one of these plans before the Affordable Care Act came into law, and you really liked that plan, what we said was you could keep it if it hasn't changed since the law was passed.
Right. If it hasn't changed since the law passed. That is a new twist. Well, yesterday we got into this again at the briefing, and I really encourage you to follow us on Twitter at BP Show.
I will second that. Yes, you must follow at BP Show on Twitter.
Because at the briefing yesterday, this dominated again. I started out by saying it felt like Groundhog Day to me at the White House briefing, because it was the same briefing we've had and the same questions for the last 10 days, I think. And almost every question for the first 50 minutes were about, okay, now the president said that, but he wasn't about you can keep your insurance company insurance plan if you like it. He wasn't really telling the truth, was he? He was really lying, wasn't he? Or he wasn't telling the whole truth. And what are you going to do about it? And I think we've gotten to the point where we're beating a dead horse. All right. First of all, I think the White House ought to just admit the president misspoke. Just say that. Don't say the president lied. The president misspoke, right? It's not true that if you have your health insurance, your own health insurance, and you like it, you can keep it. It's not necessarily true. Maybe you can, but if the insurance company drops it, you can't. And in many of these plans, the insurance company has to drop them because they're lousy plans. They don't meet the standards of the Affordable Care Act. So I think we in the media are beating this thing to death But I also think the White House is just absolutely not just they didn't just misspeak the president, but they're mishandling the whole response to this. The White House ought to admit the president didn't tell the absolute 100% truth about this, is not exactly as he's sold the product. And I think then we have to understand the reality is, yeah, some of these plans are going to go away, but they should go away because they're lousy plans. Some of them don't even cover hospital care. You end up having to spend any time in the hospital. They have high deductibles, $10,000, $25,000 deductibles. They're lousy plans. They're going to be. You can replace them with something else through the health exchanges. And thanks to the Affordable Care Act, those people who lose their plans and may have to get another one might actually qualify, probably will, for a federal subsidy. So they're going to get help from us to buy their new insurance plan, meaning in the end, they'll get a better plan, maybe for less money or maybe for the same amount of money. So in the end, this is going to work out. In the meantime, I think we've got to stop beating a dead horse. And I also think the White House has just got to fess up and stop trying to spin their way out of this. When we come back, big victory in the Senate this week on the Employment Non-Discrimination Act. Jim Morrison, no, not that Jim Morrison. Jim Morrison from Here TV will join us to talk about the significance of that. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing done. I want you to just push the query.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour. Hey, who says that Congress can't get anything done? I mean, it might have taken them 17 years, but the United States Senate finally getting around to voting again on the Employment Non-Discrimination Act. And they looks like they're going to pass it. They got through the filibuster, at least to bring it up on the Senate floor. Jim Morrison is the host of For and Against on Here TV, joining us on our newsline this morning. Hey, Jim, good to have you with us.
Good morning, Bill.
Significant vote or going nowhere? What do you think? How do you read it?
Well, actually, it's both. It's glass half full and glass half empty. I mean, it's certainly significant because this is 17 years in the making. They tried this once before, and it missed by one vote.
Hard to believe they'd have to wait 17 years to bring this back. I mean, Jesus.
17 years. But, I mean, look at marriage equality. Look at Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Look at the Supreme Court in DOMA. I mean, this is evidence of how the country is changing, and that's what makes what you're probably about to ask me about Boehner in the House.
Well, exactly.
So much more shocking.
Right. I mean, so it gets through the Senate, and with the help of 7 Republicans, at least we get over the filibuster. You got to go step by step here, but with the help of 7 Republicans, I think we can accept the fact it's going to pass the Senate, right?
Right.
And it gets to the House, and Boehner says, even before it gets there, dead on arrival. What's that all about?
As soon as the Senate votes, Boehner's office makes a statement. I mean, I'm going to mix about 14 metaphors and say, it's like he's cutting off his nose to not spite his base. I mean, you have to sort of figure out, it's like something like 70% of the country supports this, and even in Republican districts, 60% support this. In fact, most Americans think that this law already exists.
Yeah.
So it's baffling to think that this is a body that will vote 40 times or try to vote 40 times to repeal Obamacare. Will spend millions and millions of dollars to fight DOMA, and yet they won't even bring this to a vote. And that's shocking. And I can only say that perhaps that discriminating against gays and lesbians and transgender people still in the calculation of most Republicans is okay as far as getting reelected in your district, and that the danger is the backlash, like I just said, from that tiny fringe rump base.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be that they see this as a political liability for Republicans, right? And that so the agenda, it seems to me what they're willing to do is stand before the American people as the party that is endorsing and practicing discrimination.
Exactly.
In the 21st century. I mean, how is that a political win? I don't get it.
Well, that's. I mean, I can only say, and this is a sad thing for me to say as an LGBT activist, is it must in their calculation be that there will not be any repercussions for them to do that, because those are the calculations that politicians make, and that seems to me to be the only answer, or they're just bigots.
Yeah. Well, I think
it's either one.
Yeah. Maybe they ought to ask Ken Cuccinelli that question this morning. Right?
Yeah. How is that going to work out for you? I mean, the other discussion, I don't know how much we're on time here, but the other discussion is this whole religious exemption thing that's now come up in the Senate. And there's 2 religious exemptions. There's the one for churches that's been in the Civil Rights Act, the same thing. And then Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania is proposing a very broad religious exemption that basically any private organization would be exempt from ENDA if they had a religious reason for firing someone, which also just happened to be because they were gay. Or
Yeah. By the way, I have to tell you, I understand the politics of that, but I think this religious exemption is total BS. I mean, I say that as a former seminarian. It's also not right for churches to discriminate against people because they're black or because they happen to be a woman or because they happen to be LGBT either, right?
Well, exactly. I mean, these churches exist in our public sphere, and this should remind Americans about how our important and contribution to the world America has.
Not only that, we subsidize them, right? We they're tax-free, and then we allow them to discriminate. I mean, I think it's outrageous. But that's another battle, I guess, but we'll have to fight. Hey, Jim, before we let you go, though, I have to ask you about something else I think was a sign of the times.
Congressman Mike Michaud from Maine came out this week, and nobody seems to make a big deal of it, which is good news, right?
It's great news. I mean, it's part of the trend that America is more understanding and comfortable, and one's sexual identity is just normal. It's like the color of your eyes or the color of your skin, and that's an important thing that's happening.
Yeah, I love the way he did it too. He just said, "Okay, yeah, so I'm gay, so what?" You know?
Yeah, exactly.
I think, as you and I know, there are some other members of Congress who might well do the right thing, but don't have the balls to do it. At any rate, Mike Michaud did, and I salute him for it. Jim Morrison, good to have you with us. We'll get you back here when we have more time to talk next time. Thanks, Jim.
Appreciate it, Bill.
All right. Jim is the host of For and Against on Here TV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go. In the next hour, Rodell Molino from American Bridge will be joining us, and then we're going to talk about that big Miami Dolphins flap over bullying with Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports. Peter Ogburn, what's going on?
This is a big deal for those of you listening in Los Angeles.
Yes.
They have a very ambitious project plan. They want to bring wireless, fiber-based internet to all of its residents. 3.5 million residents of Los Angeles. They're undergoing this project now. It's going to cost somewhere between $3 and $5 billion. But the city of Los Angeles wants to say, you live here, you get fiber internet.
What are they going to do? Do a modem or fiber? No, this is
fiber internet.
Wow.
It's a high-speed internet to every resident of Los Angeles.
Whoa. This is Mayor Garcetti's
This
project?
is a big, big deal.
That is a big deal. But if they can do it there, right? I mean,
if they can do it there, I mean, they can certainly.
I mean, wide,
exactly.
I lived there for a long time. I know LA so well. I mean, it's so spread out. That is a real challenge. Well, good for him. Good for Garcetti. We'll be right back. 2 more hours coming up.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, good morning, everybody, friends and neighbors all across this great land of ours. Great to see you today. Thank you for joining us here on the Bill Press Show on Wednesday, November 6th. It is the morning after big election day nationwide, lots of important races, and we will take a look at all of them, bring you the results, and more importantly, what it all means. Yes, indeed. Let's start out. We've got a new Democratic governor in Virginia, Terry McAuliffe, squeaking out a victory, a little closer than expected, over Ken Cuccinelli. Also, new Democratic Lieutenant Governor, Ralph Northam, and the Attorney General's race neck and neck at this time with a recount expected. 2 big Tea Party losers in Virginia, maybe a third. All in all, it was a bad night for the Tea Party because down in Alabama, the Tea Party candidate in a special election for Congress lost to an establishment Republican who had a big support from the business community. And of course, in New Jersey, Chris Christie romped to an easy re-election win, showing that if you're not a Tea Party candidate, you can do pretty well even in a blue state. In other election news, Colorado rejected an attempt by 11 counties to secede and form a new state called Northern Colorado. Colorado voters also approved a tax on pot, treating it just like cigarettes and alcohol. And Bill de Blasio, the most liberal candidate anywhere on the planet, big margin of victory. He is the next mayor of New York City. Speaking of mayors, the mayor of Toronto, Rob Ford, says, yeah, I smoked crack in one of my drunken stupors, and he is now more popular than ever in Toronto. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
Radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
The voters have spoken, and for the most part, they got it right. Powerful message last night from the election returns. We'll talk about it all morning long here on the Bill Press Show. Good to see you. Good morning, and welcome. This Wednesday, November 6th, welcome to the Bill Press Show, coming to you live from our nation's capital and our studio right here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., and we're looking at the returns from Virginia, right across the river, from Virginia, from New Jersey, from Alabama, from Colorado, from New York City, Seattle, Detroit, and Boston, and other localities here. Don't forget Colorado, of course. I mean, lots of news, lots of important elections at the local level, state level, and, well, none at the national level, but national significance of those returns for us to analyze and talk about this morning. Don't forget, we want to hear from you, what it all means to you and what experiences you had with the election results yesterday, particularly those of you who were out there. Just was looking at an email from a friend who was doing get out the vote work yesterday in Northern Virginia for Terry McAuliffe all day yesterday. Very excited about what she heard from voters. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Tell us about your experience, what it all means to you. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Also, Keeping his eye on things this morning and last night, Peter Ogburn.
Hey.
Had a team press here this morning.
Happy Wednesday.
Right, with the help of Alicia Cruz on the phone lines and Cyprian Bolding on the video cam, keeping us looking good. Because while we are a radio show on your local progressive talk radio station, you can also watch us on Free Speech TV if you have a satellite dish, DirecTV, or the Dish Network. That's Free Speech TV. And on the small screen, your laptop, your iPad, your computer, watch the video stream if you care to at Talker TV, TAWKR TV. It's youtube.com/Talker TV. One of the other big elections yesterday, of course, was in New York City. We knew who was going to win, but still to see him win is a great, great joy because Bill de Blasio is a real liberal, a real progressive, proud of it, makes no bones about it, and he crushed John Lodeh in New York by 49 points plus. And last night, he didn't back away from this whole thrust of his campaign is that there are two cities here in New York, and there should be just one city. Everybody should enjoy the benefits of living in New York, not just the 1% who live on the Upper East Side. He talked about it again last night.
That inequality, that feeling of a few doing very well, while so many flip further behind. That is the defining challenge of our times.
And how could you vote against somebody who has a 15-year-old son with an afro like that one, right?
Go with the fro.
Go with the fro.
Go with the fro.
That was his slogan. I mean, and how many politicians today would talk about income inequality? Most people are afraid of touching it because they're going to be accused of fighting class warfare, starting class warfare. Not de Blasio. Expect great things from him. And we've got great things coming up on the show this morning. We'll start off this hour with Rodel Molyneux from American Bridge for the 21st Century. Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, chair of the Democratic National Committee, will join us at the top of the next hour. And Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports will be here about the big bullying flap on the Miami Dolphins. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
A couple of other stories making news. Crack continues to be whack. Toronto's Mayor Rob Ford finally had to face the inevitable on Tuesday afternoon. He admitted that he has smoked crack, probably in one of his, quote, drunken stupors.
I love it.
I have done a lot of crazy things in drunken stupors. Smoking crack is not one of them. He blamed...
That's what you say, but that's not what he says.
That's what I say. That's definitely not what he says. He was forced to have a press conference yesterday. His defense, by the way, after evading this topic for months and months and months after a tape had surfaced of him smoking crack, was not that he lied or misled, but that the media didn't ask the right questions.
Yeah, right.
He says he's not stepping down and he's running for re-election, so...
That is classic political spin. Some of the best I've ever heard.
Pretty great. It is
I would have told the truth if you had only asked the right question.
You just had to ask me the right question. It is 2013, and scientists have just discovered a new body part. Dr. Stephen Klass and Professor Johan Bellemans have been conducting research into serious ACL injuries. There have been complaints from some people who have had surgery on the ACL that even after it's been repaired, their knee would just give out and buckle. So what the scientists looked at and the doctors looked at is that there is a previously unnamed, unnoticed ligament that hangs out around the knee area. It's called the anterolateral ligament. They found it, they identified it, and that's part of what, when people now have ACL surgery, this is something that doctors will look at.
How do they miss this?
I don't know.
How about all those bodies that medical students have been poring over for
They thought that it was part of something
centuries.
else, I guess, but these doctors have identified this very specific ligament that isn't getting repaired during ACL surgery, and that's what's causing knees to buckle.
Who knew?
Who knew? Yeah, science, huh? And Colorado now might have the highest taxes in the nation. In other election news, the voters of Colorado voted to tax the use of recreational marijuana. This comes a year after they voted to make it legal. How much money do they stand to make off of the taxes? We will have to wait and see, but it's a 15% excise tax and a 10% sales tax on weed sales, so that could be big business for the state of Colorado, 25% tax on weed. Governor John Hickenlooper had some fun with the decision last night. He tweeted, quote, "Marijuana, Cheetos, and goldfish, all legal in Colorado. Now we'll have the money to regulate, enforce, and educate."
Well, you can see this coming, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is
we
the
all
next
said
step.
and I still believe that the answer to this war on drugs is to stop the stupid war on drugs and just make them legal. And once we make them legal, then tax them like we tax cigarettes and booze, and regulate them to make sure they don't get into the hands of minors or the people who are not using them when they're driving. And that's what they're doing in Colorado. So first came the approval of the recreational use, and yesterday in a statewide ballot came the approval of the excise tax on pot. In other words, they'll treat it just like cigarettes and just like booze and other vices. Yes, indeed. So from Colorado to Alabama to New Jersey and Virginia and all across this land, very important election results yesterday. Here to analyze some of those for us, Rodel Molino is the president of American Bridge 21st Century. Hey, Rodel, good to have you back on the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Bill. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so let's start in Virginia. Pretty clear choice there and pretty powerful message in the big win of Terry McAuliffe, correct?
I think so.
How do you read it?
Well, listen, I think that there are a few key takeaways from that race. The first is that the Republican war on women is still costing them elections, and I think that Cuccinelli's anti-woman record was a focal point of that race, and of course it favored Terry McAuliffe. I also think
and there was a big gender gap. The last I saw was 14 points. I don't know what the final returns were, but
yeah, I think that's slightened. That it went down a little bit, but they looked at the. I thought another great exit poll was the unmarried women, where at one point in time Terry McAuliffe was winning by 40 points with unmarried women. I think that has a lot to do with Cuccinelli's past record, especially as it pertains to contraception. Mm-hmm. I also think that just the Tea Party conservatism in the general is a liability for Republicans. Throughout this election, the American Bridge found Cuccinelli had said stuff like he at one point in time compared immigrants to rats, which was something very almost Steve King-like from Iowa. The way that he embraced people like Ted Cruz. You could just kind of see that he was going for this "I am a Tea Party conservative."
Oh yeah,
and I think that's a liability in a state like Virginia.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, Virginia, maybe geographically you could say it ought to be a red state or at least a purple state, but the Republicans did a lot to turn it blue, right? I mean, but first of all. Mm-hmm. They have an entire Tea Party candidate for governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. And none of them backed away from their positions at all. You mentioned Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, Marco Rubio, Rick Santorum, Mike Huckabee. They're the guys that Cuccinelli brought in to kind of reinforce his Tea Party status.
Exactly. And it's very interesting. And I think one of the reasons why Cuccinelli was forced to go that way, and I think that's to the next point I wanted to make, is that this is the 21st century, and you can't hide from your past anymore. And I think one of the things that the McAuliffe campaign did, and outside groups did very well in this election, was defining Cuccinelli before he had the ability to define himself. And it wasn't very hard, but it's interesting. In the past, Cuccinelli has won his elections by cloaking himself in this garb of being an economic stalwart, when we all know that he's a social warrior. Mm-hmm. But I think what happened this time was that the McAuliffe campaign and groups like American Bridge and others started very early explaining to voters just how socially extreme Ken Cuccinelli was, and he was never able to play that I'm I'm here to help the economy of Virginia. It was all about the social piece.
Ken Cuccinelli also made the election, which I thought was interesting, about one other big issue. And last night, in his concession speech, he again repeated this claim that this election was a referendum on the Affordable Care Act. Here he is.
We said this race was a referendum on Obamacare, and although I lost, tonight you sent a message to the President of the United States.
Well, what message did they send to the President of the United States? Cuccinelli lost, right? So why is he still talking about it as a referendum on Obamacare?
This must be payback to the Republican National Party that maybe they'll help him out with something as long as he toes the party line, because I think it's a ridiculous statement. Listen, the only federal issue that had, that at least in my opinion, I think a lot of other people would agree with me, the only federal issue that had any sway on this election was the government shutdown.
The shutdown, sure.
Yeah, and the fact that, and this kind of goes back to Ken Cuccinelli embracing people like Ted Cruz. Ken Cuccinelli's friends in Washington are the ones that wanted the shutdown the most and that were driving for this shutdown more than anyone. And I really do believe that hurt Ken Cuccinelli in certain parts of Virginia.
So the Tea Party had a bad night in Virginia. We haven't heard the results of the Attorney General races. Looks like it's going to be a recount. That's a very important race. But Tea Party lost 2 out of 3 in Virginia. They also lost that special election down in Alabama, which I thought was interesting, where Republican Party establishment said, no, we don't want a Tea Party Republican candidate down here, and they managed to beat him. Dean Young was the Tea Party guy.
Yeah, listen, I think that whether you look at Alabama or you look at McAuliffe's victory, there are the Tea Party. It's not 2010 anymore, Bill, and I think some of their luster has worn off. And I think the American people are starting to see the Tea Party and some of these Tea Party candidates for what they are, which are political anarchists that don't really care about solving our problems, but just want to tear it all down.
Yeah. Well, I hope they get that message. I mean, maybe as a Democrat, I should hope they not get that message, but if I'm Republican, I would certainly want. And by the way, Chris Christie's victory in New Jersey also underscores that point too, because the Tea Party clearly he is not.
Mm-hmm. But he is conservative. I got to tell you though that Chris Christie said it best himself earlier yesterday when he said, "I'm not a moderate, I'm a conservative." I think Chris Christie benefited from Hurricane Sandy and how he handled that situation. But let's just be clear here: Chris Christie is anti-workers' rights. He's anti-women's rights. He's pro-gun. I just think that he did a much better job in New Jersey of staying away from socially divisive issues and focusing more on Hurricane Sandy cleanup. But even some of that cleanup, I think, when the final story on him is completed, I think one of the things that will be talked about is the way that he doled out contracts for that Hurricane Sandy cleanup. Maybe he given the inside track to some of his buddies that have firms versus bidding it out in the way that he should have. Mm-hmm. But he is in no way just of course sitting next to Cuccinelli. He and Cuccinelli probably agree on 9 out of the 10 things. Whatever those issues might be. I just believe that Chris Christie does a much better job of presenting and framing his arguments and not getting mired into the social radical issues. All
right, we got it. Rodel Molyneux is president of American Bridge 21st Century. You can follow all their good work at AmericanBridgePAC.org. AmericanBridgePAC.org. Thanks, Rodel. Have a good one.
Thanks a lot, Phil.
All right, talk to you again soon.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
as an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
Three, 4, 1, 1.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, in the next segment, Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports about the big Miami Dolphins bullying story. By the way, I just after one other election return, the city of Portland, Maine, I just learned last night, 70% of the voters approved making marijuana legal for adults in the city of Portland, Maine.
All right.
Well, that's in Portland. A little farther north up there in Toronto, the mayor of Toronto yesterday, Rob Ford, after weeks and weeks of denial that he ever smoked crack cocaine, yesterday he said, all right, yeah, I did it.
Yes, I have smoked crack cocaine.
When,
But
sir?
no, do I? Am I an addict? No. Probably in one of my drunken stupors, probably approximately about a year ago.
Yeah, well, the reporter said, well, why did you lie about it to us? Why did you lie to us about it all this time? He said, no, I didn't lie to you.
I wasn't lying. You didn't ask the correct questions. No, I'm not an addict. And no, I do not do drugs. I made mistakes in the past, and all I can do is apologize. But it is what it is, and I can't change the past.
It is what it is. And the mayor said, he held a he's talking with reporters there, then he held a news conference, and he said he was not stepping down as mayor. He was going to continue to do his job as mayor. And next year, the voters could decide when he's up for re-election whether or not they want him to continue. And meanwhile, the popularity of the mayor has zoomed up. He's more popular than ever before in Toronto. Oh, Canada.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Flick it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dot. I want you to just push the battery.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
In the ad council.
So who am I talking to?
This is the Bill Press Show.
8:30. You can play that again, Peter.
So who am I talking to?
33 minutes after the hour. That is Mayor for Life, Marion Barry. Previous interview here on the Bill Press Show. There he is, yeah. In the middle of it, he said, who am I talking to? He forgot. He thought he was talking to a drug dealer. Then he forgot he was actually on the radio, so whatever. Hey, here we go.
It happens.
It happens.
What's your name again?
I get confused myself. Bill Press Show, that's what it is, at 33 minutes after the hour, Wednesday, November 6th. The morning after the big election in Virginia, New Jersey, and New York City, and Colorado, and everywhere, all across the country, Portland, Maine, and Seattle, Washington, Detroit, down in Alabama. But we're going to get away from the politics for a second here to talk sports, our second love here on the Bill Press Show. Travis Waldron is the sports editor for Think Progress, joining us in studio. Travis, always good to see you. Thanks for coming back.
You too. Thanks for having me.
All right. So now, really, these guys in NFL, they weigh 300 pounds, and they're complaining about bullying.
Well, I mean,
please. All right. So, Jonathan Martin versus Richie Incognito. What's it all about?
Well, it's there's this common practices of hazing in the NFL,
which is apparently pretty serious. I mean,
right?
Rampant, right?
It's rampant. There's different levels of it. I mean, you hear stories all the time of guys who have to stand up and sing their college fight song in front of the whole team. Things like that. But then there's also common practices like making rookies pay for meals for the whole team.
By the way, which is a lot of dough,
a lot of money.
Yeah,
the Dolphins apparently was between $30,000 and $40,000, and some of these rookies, their minimum contract if they play the whole season is $400,000. So I mean that's up to 10% of your salary right there
for one meal.
For one meal,
yeah. Right.
And then when it comes to Jonathan Martin, apparently it just went even farther. He gets bullied by a teammate who used racial slurs against him. And last night, the Sun Sentinel down there in Florida reported that the Dolphins coaches had reportedly told Richie Incognito to toughen up Jonathan Martin. So adding a whole nother chapter to this. And, when it brings in, I think people can debate the value of hazing. I would say it's kind of dumb and unnecessary altogether. But when you start talking about actual bullying, about racial slurs and threats and kind of harassment, you're obviously stepping over the line. And then you obviously have to question, is this isolated to Miami's locker room or is it a much bigger problem?
Well, I was going to ask you about that, but I mean, you hear about hazing with college fraternities, right? Or sometimes in the military, too. I mean, I've heard stories about the Naval Academy, right?
Right.
I mean, really, in professional football? I mean,
it's kind of the same culture, though, right? It's kind of this, overly masculine
male locker room,
alpha male type, assert your dominance over everyone else. And I think there's this idea that with rookies, you have to put them in their place. And like I said, a lot of it is somewhat, unharmful, I guess.
Yeah.
But then but you have to wonder, do those little things then, kind of just pave the way for some hierarchy in the locker room that leads to things like this? And
to show you how foreign it is to me, I could also see that a rookie comes onto a team and the attitude would be, let's help this guy out. We want him to be one of us. Hey, kid, can I help you with that? Yeah, no, that's not really the way you ought to do it. You ought to kind of do it this way. And hey, how about we're going out for some drinks tonight? How about joining us? We want you to be part of the club. I mean, that might work too, right?
Right. But I think,
build
you have
them up rather than tear them down.
Right. But I think, though, you have to also consider that the NFL, it's hyper competitive. And every guy in that league who comes onto a new team is somebody who's going to take someone else's job.
Or money, yeah.
And money,
and
right.
money, yeah.
And so it maybe that leads to some counterproductive things for the team.
What's the potential outcome? So Incognito has been suspended, right?
He's been suspended.
Without pay.
There are reports that say he's never going to play for the Dolphins again. They can't.
Really?
They
Over
can't
this?
cut him right now because it would cost them a lot of money under the salary cap rules.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't ever come back to Miami.
And will Jonathan Martin be respected because he blew and accepted because he blew the whistle?
That's
this guy?
That's the larger question, right? Is about the workplace atmosphere and what the NFL and what NFL teams and what NFL coaches are doing to this is their workplace. This isn't just a locker room. It isn't just a football game. This is their workplace, and they should have the right to feel safe at work, to not get harassed at work, and when they complain about it, to have it addressed and for no retribution. And he, according to other reports, felt like he couldn't complain because there would be retribution against him. And that's
what
a
about
major
the coaches
problem.
who knew about this and didn't do anything about it?
Well, that's a big problem too. There was an interesting thing from Herm Edwards on ESPN the other day, who is a former NFL player and former NFL head coach, and he said, we can't police everything in the locker room. That's the player's domain, but you should know what's going on. And when things like this are going on, the coach has to know about it. And there's obviously a failure of leadership from Dolphins coaches, from the veteran Dolphins players. I don't understand how there wasn't a veteran player in the locker room to stand up and say, look, this has gone too far.
Well, from what I've heard, too, by the way, this has shades of Penn State to me, echoes of Penn State. Not that it was, take what was rape that was happening at Penn State, but in the sense that so many people knew about it and nobody did nothing. People, from what I've read, people were afraid of Richie Incognito.
Well, he's always had a reputation as, the players voted him, I think 3 years ago, as the dirtiest player in the NFL. He was last year was going through some life change, was meditating and things like that, and obviously didn't work out too well.
I was going to say it didn't work out too well.
But
I don't know, Peter, what do you think about this? Have you got, Richie Incognito, one of your heroes?
No, not at all. I do think that we've gotten to a point where we have to address the years and years of this masculine sort of, just deal with it, or this is a man sport, or this is not how a man acts, or whatever. Because when it comes to with the concussion stuff, just get him out there and play football. That's what boys do, or that's what men do. They play football, they hit each other hard. Well, it turns out that there's some serious problems with that, or the gay athletes coming out, that there's a big fear among a lot of them. That this masculine nature of sports.
Imagine what Incognito would do with
a gay teammate. No, seriously. Seriously.
Yeah.
And I think there's a larger piece to this, too, is that Richie Incognito was reportedly bullied when he was a kid. So, this is kind of it keeps going and going, and all of these things. And then you get these, former players or current players or officials who, in Sports Illustrated, anonymously said Jonathan Martin needs to step up and do something about it himself. Insinuating that he needs to punch Richie Incognito in the face.
I was going to ask you why he didn't do that. Why he's 300 pounds
right,
too.
A lot of guys would, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of guys wouldn't. That's not everybody's disposition. And, even if he did do that, I think there needs to be an understanding that the workplace, the locker room, has to be a place where guys are respected and where their complaints and discomforts are respected as well.
We had Igor Volsky on the show yesterday, Travis, who you work for. Did he ever haze you?
Only a little bit.
Okay, all right.
Punch him out.
He made me one time when we went to Netroots. He made me carry all of his bags into the hotel.
Let's see. You can hit him.
He looks like a bully to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Really
Igor, big bully.
Well, so now what are they going to do? Have sensitivity trainings for these NFL players? Huh?
I have no
Are
idea.
they going to have a little kumbaya session and everything?
Maybe they need to. Maybe they just need to soften these guys up a little bit. Like let them know that it's okay.
I mean, you think of bullying.
Share your emotions all in one room and
think of
get it all out.
in the schoolyard, but you don't.
That's the thing. These are grown men.
I know. That's
grow
what I'm
up.
getting to. Yeah, right.
It's not middle school.
Yeah, grow up and act like.
Which, not that bullying's just should be tolerated in middle school, but
it's I won't say it's even understandable, but it's something that middle schoolers do.
Right.
Exactly. You would just expect them to get over it. That's why I think the whole hazing thing, is just silly. I think the coaches a long time ago should have said, "Come on, you're grown men. You're playing a
exactly. It's work.
Big tough sport,
and it's work.
It's work. Right.
Like I don't get hazed. Joking aside, I don't get hazed when I start my job. We don't haze new people. We have like a welcome lunch for them, you said.
So, So, how is this going to end? I guess that's.
Well, the NFL's reviewing it right now, and the Players Association is thinking about reviewing it. They're kind of in a tough position because they have to defend Jonathan Martin, but then they have to be ready to. If something contractual happens with Richie Incognito, then obviously they have to be willing to. File a grievance on his behalf. So it's a sticky situation for the Players Association.
And is his name really Incognito?
It is.
I was going to say, they might have a hard time finding him to give him punishment because he's incognito.
Travis Waldron here. What do you think about this bullying? Isn't this kind of silly for these grown men, these 300-pounders, these professional football players, toughest guys on the planet, and they're bullying each other? 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. Travis Waldron here from Think Progress Sports.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
I wish I was in school.
If only I had a math test today.
Or a book report to give.
I wish I was in school.
I'll stay after class. I'll clean the chalkboard. I'll do extra homework. I'll skip recess.
I wish I was in school.
I wish I was in school.
I really wish I was in school.
School ends, but free lunches for your kids don't have to. Find your local food bank at feedingamerica.org/summer meals for help. Together, we're feeding America.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
on your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Looking at some of the bigger dimensions of in the world of sports, that's what they do there at Think Progress with sports blogger Travis Waldron, who is in studio with us. Enough about the Miami Dolphins. The D.C. City Council, talk about NFL, the D.C. City Council yesterday had something to say about Washington's shall go unnamed football team. What did they do?
10-0 vote to approve a resolution that said you should change your name. So there were only 3 members who didn't vote. 2 weren't there. 1 abstained. But all 10 who had an opinion said change it. And then Marion Barry,
yes.
your old friend Marion Barry, who was
who am I talking to?
was not there, came out afterward and said the name was despicable. So,
is that right?
Yes.
And we had City Councilman Tommy Wells, who's running for mayor, here in studio last week, who said the same thing.
Right.
Absolutely ought to change it. So maybe with this pressure building, there might be a change. Meanwhile, Washington's one of Washington's other professional teams, the Washington Nationals. Yeah, interesting story that you've been writing about the Nationals. A great story.
Great story.
A feel-good story is what I was looking for. Go ahead, tell us about it.
So a couple months ago, I got an email from somebody who told me about Cliff, and he is someone who was homeless for a long time in D.C. for a few years and has struggled with addiction, and was in this program called Pathways to Housing DC, which helps homeless people get off the streets and into homes, and then over time helps them deal with their addictions and helps them find jobs and reconnect with family and whatnot. And he had talked to somebody and wanted to work for the Nationals. And after quite a while trying, they were able to connect with some people at the Nationals, and he spent the last 2 months of the season working as an usher.
Really?
For the Nats.
Yeah.
So it was the people who show you to your seats and check your tickets. And I had a chance to talk to him for a long time to write this story. And the first day after we talked, I walked out and I just sat on the curb for a little bit because I was just floored, because our interview was mostly him just talking to me. Very few questions, just kind of, tell me your story. And it was amazing. And to see somebody who has been down and out, and the people that our country really doesn't pay very much attention to, if any at all. Walking around D.C.,
right.
it always strikes me how many homeless people there are here.
Oh, I know.
And,
it's amazing.
And to see somebody work so hard to get back on track, and to see a program.
But then the Nationals shut down for the season, so what happens to poor Cliff?
Well, he has plans. He wants to go back to Oklahoma to he used to be an iron worker, so he wants to go back there and get back on the union books and come back to D.C. and maybe get some work there. And if not, then he wants to go work at the ballpark again next year. And last time we talked, he was trying to get a job at the Verizon Center for doing an ushering job for the off season. But at the time that I wrote the story, he hadn't heard back yet. So,
but that's great that the Nats would pick him up and give him a job like that.
Right.
It's also the guys that won't let you take your seats if there's during play. Right. You have to wait until.
Right.
Yeah.
They keep everything moving in the ballpark.
They do.
They're kind of the unseen, heroes, I guess, of a baseball game. They just keep everything going the right way. And
now, speaking of Major League Baseball, what's going on with this A-Rod arbitration? And why doesn't he just, take his medicine like a man?
Well,
he was using, right?
Sure, but I think we've talked about this before. In A-Rod, the collective bargaining agreement
going on.
here.
There's a big story in the New York Times. I clipped it the other day.
Right, but if you read that story, it said he tested positive reportedly once for this stimulant. You don't get punished under that until you're second positive. It's a stimulant. I don't think I'm not big on the specifics of the drugs, but I don't think
there's so many of them
exactly the same as like the steroid and performance-enhancing drugs that baseball's trying to totally rid themselves of. This arbitration process is going to get ugly. It has been getting ugly. It keeps getting ugly. Both sides are adamant that they're correct. I think the answer is probably somewhere in between. But A-Rod, this is the process. Baseball's collective bargaining agreement and its joint drug agreement laid out a process for how to deal with these situations. And, if you're somebody like me who cares about the rights of workers and their ability to have this process and their ability to bargain, then you sort of have to respect it, even if it's ugly and even if it's A-Rod. And, even if maybe it would be preferable to all baseball fans if he'd just kind of go away.
After Barry Bonds and, Jambi and all the rest, I just assume he's been using those performance-enhancing drugs.
Yeah, I think that's most people's assumption.
Accept his medicine and his punishment.
But the question is did they punish him appropriately within the bounds of what they're allowed to do? I think that's the major. He's still denying that he used altogether. I'm not sure anyone believes that.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. You are fairly new at Think Progress, and so. But even though you're a rookie, you come back here. We will treat you like an adult anytime.
Thank you.
Just bring me my coffee.
Yeah,
bring me my coffee. Damn it.
No bullying here. Thanks, Travis, for coming in.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yes, sir.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 2 hours is not enough. We need a third hour to get through all of the news of the day and all of these big election results. And we got a third hour coming up. Well, not on Free Speech TV, unfortunately, but you can continue to watch the program on our video stream at Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. Good reason to stay tuned. In the next hour, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, chair of the Democratic National Committee, will be here, as well as Katie Glick from Politico to take a look at election results.
In the early 20th century, the war to end all wars didn't end war at all. It stoked the fires of change. A traumatized world was ripe for change. The world was ready for modernism. Modernists wanted to forget history, or at least reinterpret it. More than just a style, modernism applied to virtually all forms of creative expression. Innovative artists like Picasso, Escher, Dali, they all started looking at their world differently. Other artists tried painting light itself. These were the Impressionists. Surrealists went a bit further. We had entered the age of the isms: Cubism, Symbolism, Futurism, Constructivism. All these new modern ways of looking at the world blew people away. When it came to architecture, modernists were intrigued by emerging technology. Concrete, glass and steel featured heavily in their buildings. Modernists believed that they could design a better society. Ornamental indulgence was considered a frivolous waste of effort. They thought function should always dictate form, and that mankind's intelligence, creativity and capability for radical thinking should be celebrated. Take the Russian inventor Georgy Krutikov. He suggested an idea for a city held aloft by electrical currents. This at a time when there was barely enough wattage to keep the lights on. Not everything they designed was a resounding success. But you could argue modernism was the single most influential movement of the 20th century. From house music to housewares, tables and chairs to graphic design, all have been created by the aesthetics and ideas of modernism.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, in the next hour, at the very top of the next hour, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, chair of the Democratic National Committee and a member of Congress, of course, from Florida, joins us. And then Katie Glick will be along from Politico to take a look at election returns all across the great land of ours, at the state level and at the municipal level. President Obama on the road today. He and the Vice President get the daily briefing at 10:20 this morning. Then the President's meetings in the Oval Office at 2 o'clock. He leaves the White House on his way to Dallas, Texas. Arrives out in Dallas at 4:10 p.m. Is then going to be talking about the Affordable Care Act and also delivering remarks at a fundraiser for the Senate Campaign Committee. Back from Dallas late tonight, arriving back at the White House at 12:30 tomorrow morning. Whoa. No briefing today. Jay Carney will be gaggling with reporters on Air Force One. Back with Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
This is the Bill Press Show. Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
The voters have spoken, and for the most part, they got it right. Hey, good morning, everybody. Good to see you this morning. It's Wednesday, November 6th. Welcome to the program. Welcome to the Bill Press Show. Booming out to you live from our nation's capital on your local progressive talk radio station, coast to coast. Good to have you with us today. We've got lots to talk about and lots you're going to want to chime in on and give your opinion on. You know how to do it at 866-55-PRESS. It's a two-way street here. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what it means to you, to your family, to your community, and to your friends. You can do so again by giving us a call or on Twitter. Send us your comments at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Elections coast to coast yesterday. Most of the attention, of course, on the big governor's race in Virginia and governor's races in Virginia and in New Jersey. Also, a very important special election down at in a congressional seat in Alabama, and the big mayor's race up in New York City. She was probably up all night watching returns and weighing the returns. She joins us on our news line this morning. We're talking about good Congresswoman from Florida, chair of the Democratic National Committee, and author of the new book, For the Next Generation, Debbie Wasserman Schultz on the Newsline this morning. Hey, Congresswoman. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Where do we find you this morning? In Florida or New Jersey or where?
I've woken up in Washington, D.C. after celebrating Terry McAuliffe's victory at his headquarters last night and looking forward to the 2014 elections when Democrats continue the momentum we began building in 2012 and continued last night and will do so on into victories in 2014. Yeah, well, let's start with Virginia. It wasn't as big a margin as everybody thought, but still, Terry McAuliffe, the clear victory, which sends a pretty strong message, right? Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if anybody, any pundit a few years ago would have been asked whether or not Virginia would be essentially reliably blue or on its way to being reliably blue, and that for the first time in decades, the president's party, who holds the White House, would also win the governor's race, and that would be a Democrat. And no one would have predicted that, and that's because we, as Democrats, have embraced the notion that we should be fighting for the middle class and working families. We should focus on job creation, and we should stop the divisive, polarized agenda that the Tea Party extremists have really full-on embraced. Now, the Tea Party really took over the Republican Party in Virginia. All three candidates statewide for governor, for lieutenant governor, and for attorney general, proud Tea Party members, didn't back away from it at all. Two of them we know lost, and the Republican for attorney general is about now 650, I think, points behind Democrat Mark Herring, and maybe a recount there. But what message does this say to the Republican Party about their Tea Party leanings, do you think, Congresswoman? Well, the Republican Party clearly is in the midst of a civil war, and it's a civil war between, I guess, the establishment Republicans and the Tea Party extremists. And last night's results prove that raging war will continue. And what it also proves, last night's results also prove, is that voters across this country simply want their elected officials to focus on the issues that matter the most to them. They don't want partisan, petty bickering. They don't want candidates who are, and candidates matter. They don't want candidates who are dug in and insistent on my way or the highway politics. And that's what, the Tea Party's been hurtling us from manufactured crisis to manufactured crisis since 2010, when a lot of them won elections. And leading into 2014, with Terry McAuliffe's victory last night, you have John Kasich, who was a Tea Party governor elected in 2010. You've got Rick Scott, the governor of my home state, same thing. I think that last night's election results don't bode well for their re-election chance.
Yes, well, I hope they. I think the message is loud and clear. I hope they see that message. You touched quickly on Florida. I've got to ask you, what's your reaction to Charlie Crist, former Republican governor, converted to a Democrat, now launching his campaign, announcing this week he's going to run for governor of Florida as a Democrat? Are you on board the Crist bandwagon?
Well, keeping in mind that I'm the chair of the Democratic National Committee,
right.
So I don't get on a bandwagon until there's a nominee.
Yeah.
But Charlie Crist, I had the good fortune of working with Charlie Crist, at every stage of his and my career. We were both served in the legislature together.
Uh-huh.
I agree with him on some things and on others, but our party is a big tent. We welcome him. We welcomed him when he joined the Democratic Party. We welcome his candidacy, and I think he's taken some strong, courageous stands, particularly during his time as governor as a Republican, and bucked his own party. And I think he's clearly an example of a candidate that voters would recognize is not cut from the my way or the highway cloth. And we have a great candidate in Nan Rich in Florida as well, who is actually my state senator. And so I look forward to seeing the race and supporting the Democratic nominee. That'll
be a very lively primary for sure. Now, I know, Congresswoman, we have to talk about, you did spend some time up in New Jersey with Barbara Buono, who's a great candidate. And that was a disappointing loss. How do you read that one?
Well, I think the loss in New Jersey, or really Chris Christie's victory, was, I think, pretty reflective of his outsized personality. I mean, if you look at the down ballot results, there are places that he ran ads where his legislative coattails were non-existent. I mean, state legislators that won were Democrats that he tried to defeat. And look, the voters of New Jersey clearly rejected his agenda. I mean, they overwhelmingly voted to increase the minimum wage last night. That was a bill that Chris Christie actually vetoed. And so Chris Christie himself is actually out of step with the values and the issues that matter to voters. But, they like his personality, and I think it's probably the most reflective of the work he did following the natural disaster of Hurricane Sandy.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, he agree or disagree, right? He's a colorful personality and a big personality. And
yeah, I mean, I come from a state, Bill, that we deal with natural disasters, obviously with living in Hurricane Alley all the time. And whether it was Jeb Bush or Chris Christie, when a natural disaster strikes, you want you feel emotionally attached to a leader who's brought you through it. So I think it's really kind of nothing more than that, especially given the issues that New Jerseyans embrace, that Chris Christie is actually on the other side of on almost every single one.
Now, we know your time is short and you got a lot of interviews this morning, but before I let you go, I want to come back to, sorry for bouncing around like this, I want to come back to Virginia for just a second, because Cuccinelli tried to make this election in Virginia a referendum on a national issue. And I was surprised last night that he actually raised this issue again. Here's a quick bite from Cuccinelli last night.
We said this race was a referendum on Obamacare, and although I lost, tonight you sent a message to the President of the United States.
Well, what message did the people of Virginia send on Obamacare, Congresswoman?
Yeah, I mean, I think the message is pretty clear. Ken Cuccinelli made this a referendum on Obamacare. He said, if you like Obamacare, you should vote for Terry McAuliffe.
Yeah.
If you don't, you should vote for me.
Right.
And last night, Virginia voters voted for Terry McAuliffe. So I think it's pretty clear, and the polls show, Bill. It's, as much as we might chuckle over the irony of Cuccinelli's statement last night, the polls show that the more Americans know about the benefits of the Affordable Care Act, the more they like it. Obamacare's approval ratings have actually gone up. Even in the midst of the Tea Partiers shutting down the government, trying to deny Americans the access to quality, affordable health care that it'll provide. So I think we're actually going to have an opportunity as Democrats to run on the success of the Affordable Care Act, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, we had this referendum on Obamacare in 2012, right? And President Obama won by 5 million votes. Right.
Exactly. We've watched this movie before. We know how it turns out, and the American people actually like the ending, and that's why they continue to elect Democratic candidates across the country who have embraced the idea that everyone deserves access to quality, affordable health care, and the insurance companies should not be in the driver's seat.
Well, Madam Chair, you had a good night last night. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking time for us this morning.
Thanks, Bill. Take care.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Congresswoman from Florida, and she's the head of the Democratic Party.
This is the Bill Press Show. on your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go now. Oh, boy, the days after elections are always very interesting, and there's so much stuff to pour through, and we will continue to pour through the election results here at 20 minutes after the hour on Wednesday morning, November 6th, with Katie Glick from Politico here for the next half hour with us. Meanwhile, a couple of other items we want to be sure you are aware of. It's not all election results. Some sad news out of Chicago. Legendary chef, fairly young, Charlie Trotter, 54 years old, found dead in his apartment yesterday. It was just a year ago about that he closed down his restaurant and stepped out of the business, wanted to do some other things with his life. I mean, Peter, you know, it's an exacting schedule to be a chef of a major restaurant. I mean,
oh yeah,
it's 24/7, intense 24/7.
If you ask any successful chef, it's 7 days a week, and you're looking at being in the restaurant 16, 17, 18 hours a day, and that doesn't mean you're not working when you're not there.
And you're leading a staff of 25, 30, whatever, and perfection, and then all the diners with all their complaints. I mean, no, everything is on the line. But in an interview a year or so ago, Charlie Trotter did say that still dining out is one of the best and most accessible luxuries, if you will, for average Americans.
You know, actually, when you think about it, fine dining is probably the most accessible of all of the luxury experiences available. Fine dining really is a modest investment when you think of it, because you can go out with a significant other, a spouse, or a friend, and have a once-in-a-lifetime experience for the very modest price of $60 or $70 an hour. And you also have 70 or 80 people working on your behalf for $60 or $70 an hour. It's actually a bargain.
Yeah, he's got a point, but it's still beyond the reach of a lot of people.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, I mean, that's why fast food places are so successful. But if you can afford it, even if it's just once a year, even if like a wedding anniversary or a birthday or something, it is a bargain.
I do think
you get a lot for your money.
Absolutely, I do see the what he's saying in the sense that, you know, very, very rich people drive expensive cars and they have yachts and they have giant houses, but they also go out to fine dining on a regular basis. Whereas average Americans, if it's an anniversary or a birthday and they go somewhere, you live like a rich person for a couple of hours. Just like a rich person does.
Yeah. For a couple of hours.
For just a couple of hours. You don't have to invest in a car or a yacht or a big house.
Then you go back to being just you.
Right. Ham sandwiches the next day.
Then you get on the subway and go home.
That's right. Hey, absolutely.
Right. President Obama, big meeting at the White House yesterday with some business leaders. He still is convinced that there's a possibility to get immigration reform passed before the end of the year.
We're going to see people who are currently working here out of the shadows, paying taxes, and getting right with the law.
And he says, you know, the hopeful sign is on the Hill that, yes, the Tea Party Republicans still say we don't want anything to do with immigration reform. They still think they're going to be able to just either ignore the problem or pack 11 million people in buses and send them back south of the border. But President Obama says even despite those people, there are some saner heads among Republicans on Capitol Hill.
Although right now there's been some resistance from House Republicans, what's been encouraging is that there are a number of House Republicans who've said, we think this is the right thing to do as well.
And they're the House Republicans that they're counting on to vote with all Democrats for comprehensive immigration reform if John Boehner would only schedule a vote or allow a vote in the full House on the issue, and that's the challenge. The other challenge is they have to spend some time in Washington if they're going to get anything done. There's total inexplicable reason the House is out of town this entire week. They come back next Tuesday, and they will be here 2 days before they break for Thanksgiving, which is almost a 2-week break. So you can't expect them to get anything done unless they actually report for work. And finally, most of the political news today, actually, even though we've been spending so much time talking about the election results yesterday in this country, most of the big political news is north of the border for a change. Up in Toronto, you may have heard about their mayor, Rob Ford. There was a video that surfaced actually months ago that it looked like it was, whoa, is that our mayor? Is that, whoa, look at that guy smoking crack. What? Is this Marion Barry? No. This is north of the border. This is Marion Barry North. It looks like our mayor, Rob Ford, smoking crack. He denied it. His story started to fall apart last week when the police chief of Toronto said, yeah, I've seen the photo, and that's him. I can confirm that
they had the video.
They had the video. The bitch set him up. I saw the video, and I can confirm it's the mayor in the video, although he would not confirm what the mayor was doing in the video. Well, yesterday, after months of denial, the mayor, meeting with reporters, fessed up.
Yes, I have smoked crack cocaine.
Oh, there it is.
But no, do I? Am I an addict? No. Probably in one of my drunken stupors, probably approximately about a year ago.
Yeah. No, I'm not an addict. I did it in a drunken stupor. So
pretty terrible defense.
I know. Oh, it's no defense.
It's not a defense at all.
No. So they said, well, why didn't you just tell the truth? Why were you lying to us? I wasn't lying.
I wasn't lying. You didn't ask the correct questions. No, I'm not an addict. And no, I do not do drugs. I made mistakes in the past, and all I can do is apologize. But it is what it is, and I can't change the past.
I can't hear that often enough. No, I didn't lie. Remarkable. You just didn't ask the right question. Now, if you had asked me, have you ever smoked cocaine in a drunken stupor, I would have said yes.
Yes.
But you didn't ask that
Shame
question.
on you.
Right. So is he going to step down? The mayor said, no. Hell no.
I want the people of this great city to decide whether they want Rob Ford to be their mayor.
Right. So he's up for re-election next year. He's going to continue to do his job, and he's going to let the people decide. And you know what? I have to tell you, if I lived in Toronto, and if he were doing a good job as mayor, and I don't know that. I don't know, what the economy is, what the job situation is, what he's been able to accomplish as mayor. But if he's doing a good job as mayor, the fact that he once smoked crack cocaine in a drunken stupor, I don't care. I'd vote for him. And I think he could get reelected as mayor of Toronto. His popularity, his approval rating has actually gone up.
Some remarkable.
Since news of this came out. Canadians might teach us a few things about politics.
This is the Bill Press Show. Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, it's Wednesday morning, November 6th. Good to have you with us, folks. Thanks for joining us here at The Bill Press Show, coming live from our nation's capital at 33 minutes after the hour. Brought to you today by AFSCME. The good men and women of AFSCME, the largest public employee and healthcare workers union in the entire country, under President Lee Saunders, making America happen. For more information about their good work, check out their website, afscme.org. That's AFSCME.org. Yes, indeed, we've spent the morning, a good part of the morning, get back to it today, reading the tea leaves from yesterday's election returns at the city level and at the state level, all across the country. Some very interesting and dramatic results. Virginia, New Jersey, New York City. Katie Glick covers politics for Politico, and she has been on the road in Virginia particularly, and stops here in the studio this morning. Hey, Katie, nice to see you.
Hey, good to be back.
Let's start. You were out in Tyson's Corner last night?
I was, with the McAuliffe campaign.
With the McAuliffe campaign. Mm-hmm. You chose to go there and not down to Richmond because...
Well, we had another colleague down in Richmond,
okay.
so we were kind of trying to make sure we had all of our bases covered.
Right.
Sure.
And the Terry McAuliffe, the clear winner, but not by as big a margin as expected. What happened?
That's
Turnout
right.
or what? What do you think?
Well, turnout's always going to be a piece of it. And then some people are pointing to Obamacare, just because the rollout has perhaps not gone as well as some people would like. And Ken Cuccinelli really spent the last bit of his campaign talking about that at every corner and at every turn. And so it'll be interesting to see how much, that messaging may have resonated.
But he did make it. And so did everybody else who went over there, Marco Rubio most recently. They did make it a referendum on Obamacare, but they lost. Mitt Romney made it a referendum on Obamacare, and he lost. How long are the Republicans going to continue to make every election a referendum on Obamacare and keep losing?
Well, it's an interesting point, and, while that may have... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to point out, because I think the response to the spin is, it doesn't matter whether it was 2 points or 10 points. Terry McAuliffe is the next governor of Virginia.
That's absolutely right.
Right. And Ken Cuccinelli lost. Right. So trying to say, well, I only lost by 2 points. Yeah, guess what? This ain't horseshoes, right? There are no leaners.
Well, and that's perhaps something that people point to when asked why maybe it was closer than expected. But you're absolutely right. Terry McAuliffe did win in a race that for a long time Republicans thought was theirs to lose. And so you're right. It's Governor-elect McAuliffe.
So we have a Democratic governor-elect, Terry McAuliffe, a good friend of mine, by the way. We have a good governor-elect, a lieutenant governor, Democratic-elect, Ralph Northam. In the Attorney General's race? Don't know, really, right? I guess. I mean, the last I saw, the Democrat, Mark Herring, is that his first name? Yeah, is up by 600 votes over the Republican.
Right, exactly. Very, very close, and in fact, too close to call it last night. He came out and spoke with some reporters at the sort of conclusion of the McAuliffe campaign's event.
Oh, he did, yeah.
And all he said was that, this campaign's not over. We're going to keep fighting, and so we'll see what ends up happening with those numbers today, whether a recount is possible, that kind of thing.
Do we know yet? I haven't seen any numbers, but haven't looked that closely. About did Democrats pick up any seats in the legislature, in the Virginia State House?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know the final count on that front. I know that a lot of people thought that it was interesting to see to what extent Terry McAuliffe might have coattails, and also to what extent Chris Christie might have coattails in New Jersey.
Right. Because McAuliffe, as governor, having a Democrat there is one thing, but he's got to be able to have people he can work with in the legislature.
Sure.
And we'll see how that plays out as well. Let's jump up to New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Everybody expected Chris Christie to win. He did. They expect him to win by a big margin, and he did. How can a Chris Christie win in a blue state when Ken Cuccinelli can't win in a red state?
Well, very, very different candidates, and they kind of create a very
What used to be a red state, I should say.
Yes, now a purple state, very much. Well, in fact, maybe a blue state.
Listen, when you have two Democratic senators,
that's right,
and a governor and a lieutenant governor, and maybe an attorney general, I think you can say it's a blue state now.
It certainly looked pretty friendly to the Democrats last night. You know, Senator Kaine was there, Senator Warner was there, and they were really kind of got the rock star reception as well. So,
yeah, I'll bet.
Virginia.
So back to New Jersey.
Sure.
Why the difference?
Very, very different candidates, very different styles, and very different kind of policy positions. Ken Cuccinelli, even through his concession speech last night, said that he was sticking to his first principles, which is that really kind of first commitment to being that kind of true conservative, kind of that true believer that, he very much campaigned as and has very much been a conservative his whole career. But Chris Christie, is kind of billed as a moderate. He doesn't talk a whole lot about social issues. He is a Republican governor of a very blue state, and so has to have a particularly strong record of, being able to work with both sides, perhaps being willing to criticize his side when he deems that's necessary. And you're right, really major margins, including among voters that don't traditionally vote Republican.
And the gender gap in Virginia was a big part of the story last night. Women voters breaking overwhelmingly for Terry McAuliffe.
Sure. Definitely he did get the women's vote, and that kind of piece of this has been a central part of the campaign. Democrats really at every turn were hammering Ken Cuccinelli over his pretty conservative views on social issues, including on abortion, birth control, and that was really the refrain in every ad and every speech. And it looks like to some extent that ended up resonating.
Katie Glick is with us from Politico. It's Politico.com, no better source for what's happening in the political world here in Washington, around the country. So, Katie, I'm a Republican, let's say. This is a stretch for me, I know. and I really, my primary goal is to win elections, right? And I've got 2014 coming up, and I've got 2016 coming up. And I look at last night, and I see 3 Tea Party candidates in Virginia at this point, all either lost or losing.
Sure.
Governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general. I look down in Alabama in a special congressional election in a Republican primary, and I see a Tea Party candidate lost. And then I look at New Jersey, and I see a conservative Republican, but no Tea Partier, Chris Christie, win. Seems to me there might be a message there for the Republican Party.
I think that is a narrative we're going to see play out.
Tea parties will deny it. They'll say, well, we almost won.
Absolutely.
If we had only been more conservative or had more money, we could have won. But I'm talking about the message. There's got to be a message about the Tea Party message not working in general elections, no?
Well, the 3 races last night all very much encapsulate that debate that has really been raging within the Republican Party over the last several years between those, sort of maybe more conciliatory Republicans and the establishment Republicans, some might say, and those really very much tied to that Tea Party grassroots corner. It'll be interesting to see. Chris Christie is now going to be the head of the RGA. The National Republican Senatorial Committee has suggested that perhaps they would be open to maybe taking sides in primaries if the focus is on electability. That wasn't a blanket statement, but leaving open that possibility. So it'll be very...
They might actually oppose some Tea Party candidates in primaries?
They have left open that possibility. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. We see kind of in a handful of House races across the country. In Michigan, I can think of 2, for example, where challengers from the more sort of establishment business community wing of the party are coming up to take on some kind of Tea Party candidates. And so very interesting to see how that tension ends up playing out ahead of 2014 and 2016.
All right, some interesting races also last night in Colorado, in New York City, in Detroit, in Seattle, and up in Portland, Maine. We'll get into some of the rest of those, and glad to take your comments on New Jersey. Did Barbara Buono even have a chance in Virginia? What does the victory of Terry McAuliffe really mean for the national political scene? 866-55-PRESS. That's the toll-free number. Join the conversation here on The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show. Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, we are reading the tea leaves of yesterday's election results here on The Bill Press Show this Wednesday morning, November 6th, with the help of Katie Glick from Politico. Out at Tyson's Corners last night, a big celebration for Democrats. And we were talking during the break that maybe we should not read too much into either Tea Partiers understanding that they blew it yesterday or establishment Republicans being able to turn the tide, right?
That's right. You know, they, as much as, you know, the three races that we were talking about earlier, you know, did seem to kind of highlight that establishment Tea Party tension, you know, that certainly does not mean that that tension is going to go away. And there's a lot of Tea Party kind of activists and, you know, some well-funded outside organizations that are very much committed to kind of changing Washington into making it kind of align a little bit more with their perspective. I think the Senate Conservatives Fund, for
No
example.
doubt about it. I mean, you've got the Koch brothers. You've got Jim DeMint now with this Heritage, whatever they call it, the activist wing of the Heritage Foundation. He's turned the Heritage Foundation into an extremist right-wing grassroots operation, from my reading. But, I mean, they're going to continue to pour money into the Tea Party candidates. Well, I think what's different on the political landscape today is that you have some voices like even the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the Business Roundtable, and down in Alabama in the special election, business groups, classic establishment Republican groups, who are kind of countering now the Koch brothers and saying, no, you are destroying the party. We need candidates who are establishment, middle-of-the-road Republicans who can, like Chris Christie, who can win in a general election, and Chris Christie, as conservative as he is, just by being, number one, an outside personality, and two, I think by working together with President Obama, for example, which got him a lot of flack from some of his fellow Republicans, but he wanted to do the best thing for New Jersey, and so he worked together with President Obama to get as much money as he could to New Jersey. Makes sense to me. And he, by being that way, was able to get 30% of the Democratic vote in New Jersey. So there's a real split in the Republican Party here, and it's like a civil war in the Republican Party. They're going to have to work it out.
There very much is a split. It was highlighted in November. It was highlighted again very starkly, I think, in the government shutdown when you had, kind of the Ted Cruz kind of leading the charge in the Senate. But he, what he was doing had a lot of support from Tea Party activists back home in Texas and really, among activists, Tea Party activists across the country. And so, very interesting to see kind of how those tensions play out.
So ironically, while Ken Cuccinelli tried to use Obamacare make that the issue from Washington in the Virginia governor's race, what probably was the more telling Washington issue in the Virginia governor's race was a government shutdown, because there's so many federal employees who live in Northern Virginia. So when he brings Ted Cruz in, the author of the shutdown, as his chief ally, when Cuccinelli does that, it didn't help.
Well, and to be fair, he said that he has tried to kind of condemn the approach to the shutdown, but at the same time, Politico did a poll kind of right in the midst of the shutdown, and it showed that that was really hurting Cuccinelli, it was something Terry McAuliffe.
I don't care what he says. If he stands with Ted Cruz, he's standing with the shutdown. Let's talk a little bit about New York City. Okay. Peter, Bill de Blasio last night. He's made this the theme of his campaign from the beginning, at a time when nobody gave him a prayer for even being in the finals, in the runoff. He's the next mayor of New York City, talking about income inequality.
That inequality, that feeling of a few doing very well, while so many flip further behind. That is the defining challenge of our times.
That's the issue, as I say. He ran on, and he's going to be governing on the next mayor of New York. It's a pretty radical, certainly a radical change from Mike Bloomberg.
Well, sure. He is the first elected Democrat to be mayor of New York City since 1989, and he follows the tenure of
David Dinkins, I guess, right? Was he the last one
in terms of Yeah. So, and of course his candidacy, and now I guess his mayoral position follows in terms of Mayor Bloomberg and Mayor Giuliani before that. Republican and sort of an independent, respectively, but very, very different approaches to how to govern the city.
In other races, I wanted to just mention quickly, all of our great friends out at 760 AM Colorado's Progressive Talk. In Colorado, statewide, the voters approved a tax on pot. So they've now legalized it in terms of recreational use, and now they're going to tax it just like cigarettes and booze, which was no surprise, right? The first thing was make it legal, and the second thing is tax it and regulate it and make sure people aren't smoking and driving and whatever. Right. Yeah. And the other thing is there are the 11 counties in northern Colorado wanted to secede Colorado and form the 51st state called North Colorado. Ain't going to happen, right?
That's what it looks like. People in Texas sometimes talk about, one time Governor Perry didn't rule that out, although later he walked that back. So something comes up from time to time. But looks like we'll keep all 50 states intact.
There are also some forces in Northern California, Modoc County, Siskiyou County, who talk about seceding from California and forming the state of Jefferson. They call it up there. These are little things. They pop up once in a while. They never happen. And finally, on the electoral front, in Portland, Maine, the voters voted to legalize marijuana, just like they did in Colorado and the state of Washington, just in city by city. So that's a big movement. It's happening around the country.
Very interesting.
And with that, we are out of time, and the rest of the races we'll just have to let you read about or online on Politico.com. Thanks, Katie, for coming in.
Thanks very much
for your good work. Good to see you. I'll be back with a quick parting.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Boys and girls in color, Virginia blue. Yeah, Virginia already had 2 Democratic senators. Now Virginia has a new Democratic governor, Terry McAuliffe, a new Democratic lieutenant governor, Ralph Northam, and maybe even a new Democratic attorney general in Mark Herring. Sure, McAuliffe was expected to win, but his victory still sends a powerful message across the country. Look, Cuccinelli was a proud standard bearer of the Tea Party. He proves that Tea Party candidates may win Republican primaries, but they are disasters in the general election. When will Republicans stop nominating these extremists? Making matters worse, with the help of Ted Cruz and Rand Paul and Marco Rubio, Cuccinelli made the Virginia governor's race a referendum on Obamacare, and once again, they lost big time. Didn't they learn anything from Mitt Romney? Look, yes, given its geography, Virginia should probably be a purple state. But thanks to the stupidity of Republicans, you can color Virginia blue from now on. Have a great Wednesday, folks. See you back here again tomorrow morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.